All right, in this video, I'm going to show you really quick how to download and install brushes. So we're going to start with these basic brushes that I've put into Google Classroom so we all have an idea of what they're going to look like when we open them up. So go ahead and so you guys don't have to go searching for these specific brushes. These are the ones that kids look for most often. So we're going to click on the moon brush and we're going to download it. So go ahead and hit the download button and it's going to download into your download folder on your computer. So you're going to go to your Finder and you're going to look for the zipped file. So it's going to look like this. You're going to double click and open this up. When it unzips, what's going to happen is it's going to give you a file that looks like this. You're going to open up this file and you're going to look for this type of file. So you're looking for the one that has the extension of ABR. This is a brush file. Okay, so to open it, you're going to just double click. It may launch Photoshop if Photoshop is not open, but it's not going to look like it does anything, but it does, I promise. We're going to create a new file in Photoshop. We're going to make it 11 by 8.5 inches. We're going to name it our first initial last name _brushes, and everything else is going to look just like this. You're going to hit create. And when you use a brush, what happens is, I'm going to go to my default brushes really quickly. General brushes, default. Okay, so when you are using your brushes, what happens is you can change your brush, and that's going to be up here. Okay, you can also go to Window and open your brush panel. Okay, that's going to look like this. So in your brushes, if you're up here, you can go to your settings and you can have what you want open. I always have these three things open: brush tip, brush stroke, and brush name. That way I can see what the name is, I can see what it looks like when I brush with it, and I can see what it looks like when I just stamp one time with it. Okay, so the difference between a soft round brush and a hard round brush, or a soft brush and a hard brush, I'm going to switch my color. So you have to pick a color for your brush. It can be any color you want. Okay, so the difference between a soft brush, this is a soft brush, it's got nice soft edges, and I can either click here and go to hard round brush, or I can bring my hardness up to 100%. This is a hard brush, this is a soft brush. You can also adjust the opacity of your brushes, and you can also adjust the flow of your brushes. And you can do these things simultaneously, you can do them individually, it's completely up to you. Okay, so that's the difference between a soft brush and a hard brush. And you can change any of those settings with any of the brushes that you use. Okay, so we installed that moon brush, and you're gonna find it here in your brush palette. You may have to scroll down a little bit, so if your thing is collapsed, you can always, either scroll down or you can extend it like this. You can change the size when you open your brush file. You can change the size by adjusting this slider. Okay, I like to keep it like this so I can see it. But this is what a moon brush is going to look like. So let's actually give and you see that I only have one layer. So every time, this is important, every time you do a brush stroke, you should always add a brand new layer. Okay, so I'm going to create an adjustment layer. I'm going to go to solid color and I'm going to make it kind of like this color. All right, so we're going to go to one of our brushes. And I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to change, that's a giant brush. So I'm going to make it smaller by using the bracket keys on the keyboard. Those are the two keys next to the letter P, to the right-hand side of the letter P on my keyboard. So if I click on this moon brush, change the color to white because I don't want it the same color as my background. I'm going to click one time and it gave me a nice little moon. Okay, so you can actually create a whole scene by using Photoshop brushes. Okay, where I find my brushes and where you guys are going to find your brushes is this link, brusheasy.com. Okay, that's this link. So you could create a whole nature scene. You could create grass. There's grass brushes. There's mountain brushes. There's ocean brushes. So you don't want to get the premium ones, you got to pay for those. We're looking for the free ones, right? Like there's bicycles, there's glitter, there's fireflies, there's trees, there's texture. Okay, there's all sorts of brushes that you can use in your designs. So if I were to use let's see, a textured brush. So I do have one that I've downloaded, and that was the grunge one. So if you have a picture and you want to make it look a little bit like grungy or rough, right? I'm gonna open that up, I'm gonna download it, and it's right here. So what you can do is add a little bit of texture. Ooh, that's giant. So I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. And know that the larger your brush size is, sometimes it takes a really long time for it to load on your computer. So maybe not make it so big, right? So I'm gonna make it, this one I could probably make the size of my artboard, or maybe a little bit bigger. And then what's gonna happen is, there's my moon, right? I'm gonna create a new layer for my grunge. I'm gonna click one time. So when I'm recording, I don't know why my brushes are so much smaller than the actual thing. It does that when I'm doing it on the TV too. Okay, so it's right here, but because I put it on its own layer, I can do Command T to transform, and I can stretch it out and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's gonna give me some texture to my design. So when you're doing album covers and posters, you can add texture. My moon is on its own layer, so I can stretch that out and make it bigger. Okay, so these are just another element to use in your design. You always want to make sure that your brushes are on individual layers. That way, when you come in and use a brush, you can modify it and change it. So if I wanted this to be, I don't know, orange. Let's see. It's on its own layer. I can modify it. I can stretch it out all by itself. Okay, so it's important, and you can rearrange your layers. It's important that they're on their own layers and their individual colors. So mine is kind of like lighter because I forgot to change my opacity. If you notice up here, my opacity is at 34%. If I were to, let me delete some of these layers. If I were to make this 100% and my flow 100%, it's going to be a little bit brighter, right? So that's why that one was so light in color. Okay, so that's how you're going to use your brushes on your designs. So for this one, just stamp your brushes and create a scene. And then when you're done, you're going to save your Photoshop file and then put it in your Google Drive in your graphics project folder and save it. And then you're going to export it as a JPEG file into your project folder.